Welcome to Complete BS, the official podcast of couch coaches everywhere. Not just football. It's every sport that ruins your parlay, wrecks your fantasy week, and still brings you back for more. Buzzer beaters, blown leads, and brackets and flames. Yeah, we're all over it. Unfiltered takes, armchair analysis, and enough bold opinions to fill a playbook. Hosted by Brian Schmuck, sports junkie, the Saban of stats, and your official voice of I could coach better than that. Let's go.
Couch Coach Nation, can you believe that this weekend we'll be playing games in November? The clock falls back on Saturday night, but which teams in the top 25 could also be falling this weekend? Vandy's ranked higher, but a road underdog. Cincinnati's also ranked higher than their opponent, but also a road underdog. Would either of these be an upset? Miami goes on the road, and they have to avoid their late season slide. Georgia's got a huge rivalry game away from home. Texas Tech's on the road against an improving Kansas State team. Virginia's got a long road trip out to Cal as they try to stay perfect in conference play. South Carolina, they nearly took down Alabama last weekend. Now they get another crack at a top 10 team with Ole Miss this weekend. We've got a really good slate of games this weekend, and I'm ready for some more football. AV, are you ready for the weekend?
Let's do it, man. The weather's starting to cool off, starting to feel like football season. We got the cocktail party. We got Halloween. There's going to be people at games dressed up in all kinds of costumes. It's a great time of the year. Not to mention the other things going on here. The World Series, the NBA, and the NHL have started. It is the best time of the year for sports fans and for college football.
Absolutely. Before we get to the games, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, or in this case, the tiger. Brian Kelly's out at LSU, and this was about as bad a fit as possible from the beginning, and that's even before he did his fake Cajun accent. LSU believes that they're one of the premier jobs in the country, and they're going to take a swing at everyone. And after Nick Saban and Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning, Lane Kiffin, and Eli Drinkwitz all tell them no, where do they go? I think Joe Brady is the best hire for them if they can afford to wait on the NFL season, or they work something out where he ends up leaving Buffalo before the end of the season. We'll have to see on that, but I think that's the best fit for them. John Sumrall, if they can't wait on Brady, I think it's a natural slide in from him at Tulane there in New Orleans, just up the road to Baton Rouge. He knows that area. He's done a great job. I think this would be a really good hire for LSU. I know Jimbo Fisher wants to get back into coaching. He's got ties at LSU, but I think his resume lately is a bit too shaky to pull the trigger and go with Jimbo. So, AV, what are your thoughts? I think it's Brady or Sumrall.
I don't know if I agree. I think Kiffin would consider it. I don't know that he would go there, and I get the draw of him staying at Ole Miss and being comfortable and successful there. Florida, he's got ties to the state of Florida, and Florida thinks that they've got a shot at landing him. LSU complicates it, but I think Kiffin would hear him out. I don't think he'd get past Drinkowitz. I think he would take the job. I don't know why he wouldn't. I do agree Joe Brady seems like a good fit. He had great success there. He's doing good things in the NFL, so that's a good call. Also a good call on the delay there. And then I do think Summerall is someone that he's down their list a couple of spots, but at worst case scenario, they get a bright up and coming coach with some SEC history. So it'll be interesting to see. Everybody thinks this is one of the top jobs in the country, and agree it is, but what does that mean? Does that mean you can just go pull any coach you want? I don't think so, but it'll be fascinating to watch, especially with all these other openings. And it'll be interesting to see where Kelly lands. I think he's somewhere in the Northeast, so Wisconsin or something like that. I don't think Penn State offers him a job, but I could be wrong. But I think he's a Big Ten territory kind of guy.
Well, and that leads me to exactly where I'm going, where I think Brian Kelly lands. Back in 2002, when Michigan State fired Bobby Williams, I thought that they should have hired Brian Kelly from Grand Valley State at the time. This was 4 jobs ago for him. They went with John L. Smith, and things went off the rails for them at Michigan State before they got Mark D'Antonio, and it was smooth sailing. That was a really good hire for Michigan State, but since he retired, now they've gone Mel Tucker. That didn't work out. Now Jonathan Smith, he's only in year 2, but it doesn't really seem to be a fit there. He doesn't seem interested in the community. The Michigan State fan base isn't really interested in him. I think Jonathan Smith could be out of a job in a couple of weeks, and Brian Kelly's available. He's got ties to Michigan. He spent a lot of time there at Grand Valley State. This would be a great hire. It's a hire that they should have made 23 years ago. Now they get a chance to make it right.
That's interesting. Michigan State's had some coaches between D'Antonio and Saban, and if you could throw Brian Kelly in the mix, that's quite a history of coaches.
Well, let's get to the games. We've got Cincinnati at Utah. Big game in the Big 12. It's the first ever meeting of these two teams. Utah's the 9.5-point home favorite. Cincinnati's 7-1 on a 7-game winning streak since dropping their opener to Nebraska. They're undefeated in Big 12 conference play. Utah, they're 6-2 with losses to Texas Tech and to BYU. Offensively, these two teams, they've got the number 2 and 3 scoring offenses in the Big 12, with Utah having a 1-point advantage. They both like to run the ball. Again, Utah's got a little bit of an advantage on the ground. The big question, though, for Utah is the health of QB1, Devin Dampier. If he's healthy, I think this is a Utah rout, 2+ touchdowns. Bird Ficklin, he filled in well. He's got a similar skill set to Dampier, but he's a freshman, so he doesn't have the same kind of experience. I've got Utah winning the game, regardless who's at quarterback, but maybe a little bit closer than if I knew Dampier were 100% and was going to go. I've got the Utes 38-30.
Utah is 2-3 all time in games where College game day comes to town. So do with that what you want. Agree on Devin Dampier not really being the big difference. My thing with this game is I don't really have a good grasp on who Cincinnati is. They lost to Nebraska at home, which isn't great. Their only decent road win was at Kansas, which kind of loses credibility by the week. They beat Iowa State, which at the time I thought was a good win, but then Iowa State turns around and loses to Colorado. I like Cincinnati quite a bit in terms of like watching them play. Like Brendan Sorsby is really good, and I think Cincinnati is a good team, but I just don't have a grasp on them. I have a pretty good grasp on Utah. They're good. I like Utah to handle business at home. 30-21 is my score, and I don't think it matters who plays quarterback for them.
Georgia, Florida, and we're all about tradition here, and this is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. These two teams are meeting for the 104th time. The game's in Jacksonville this year before a 2-year break for stadium renovations. Next year, the game's going to be in Atlanta, and in 2027, it will be in Tampa. I think it's a real shame that they're not going home and home on campus over the next 2 years like they did in 94 and 95, the last time that there were stadium renovations. Both teams, as usual, they're coming off a bye, but Florida's coming in without Billy Napier, who got fired. Billy Gonzalez is taking over in the interim, and Ryan O'Hara will be calling the plays for the offense. Georgia's won 4 in a row in 10 of the last 14. The Dawgs are a 7.5-point favorite in this game. Georgia, they're ranked number 5 in the country at 6-1 with only a 3-point loss to Alabama. They got balance on offense. They've got a really strong defense. I know in the last 2 weeks, Kirby Smart has been drilling into his team. Do not overlook Florida. This is a trap game. AV, how do you see it?
Well, with Billy Gonzalez taking over, I read a report where he said he wants to open it up on offense. So I don't know exactly what that means. The problem with that is I don't think Georgia knows what that means. They don't have any game tape of Billy Gonzalez as the head coach or the new offensive coordinator guy playing calls. So I think there's some element there to where UF can hit some big plays early and maybe score some points early. But at the end of the day, I think UGA's got the better team. I think that's obvious. They didn't just fire their coach, right? Georgia has more to play for. Adjustments will be made to whatever scheme they're trying to run early on. I think it's tighter than most people think throughout the game, but Georgia pulls away with a late score to win 33-20 is my prediction.
So I mentioned that Kirby's going to be drilling into his team that this is a trap game. Don't overlook Florida. However, Georgia's a young team. They don't have a ton of senior leaders on their team. They've played well this season, but I've kind of had questions about them all season long. They're not their normal dominant self. Teams with interim coaches tend to get a bump. You can just look at Virginia Tech, UCLA, even UAB in the game or games after they fired a coach. The key for the Gators, as it has been all season, is to run Jaden Baugh. In the 3 games that he's gone over 100 yards, they've won. When he doesn't go over 100 yards, they've lost every one of those games. Jaden Baugh goes over the century mark. The Gators pull the upset in Jacksonville 24-21.
Wow.
AV, I'm going to give my score prediction for Miami SMU in a little bit with Miami All-American Bryant McKinnie. How do you see this game shaking out?
So it's the first time Miami's left the state of Florida all year to play a game, which is interesting because it'll be November by the time they get there. So there's a little bit of first travel thing there. I don't know if that matters. I think Rhett Lashlee will have them ready to play. They lost last week. I think they'll be back to form for Miami. Both of these teams have one ACC loss, so one more probably knocks them out of the ACC championship game race, probably the playoff race if you're not in the ACC championship game. All that said, I think SMU comes to play. I think Lashlee has them ready. I don't think the crowd will be a factor. It's an 11 a.m. start in Dallas. But I think they score some points and give Miami all they want, but too much Miami pass rush. I think Miami wins the turnover battle, and they handle business and win 34-27.
All right. Book Club AV, make some money. What do we got?
All right, I got 4 games. The first one is Syracuse -2.5 over UNC. That's another UNC fade, but I am growing in confidence with Syracuse with their second-string quarterback, starting to get some game reps under his belt. They're starting to look better. They still have really good receivers. I expect them to put up some points and get enough stops. The Dome is a tough place to play. UNC's checked out. Give me Syracuse -2.5. I talked a bit about SMU Miami. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth kind of close game. I do think Miami wins, but 12.5 seems like a lot to give Rhett Lashlee in a big game, so I'm going to take SMU in the 12.5 points. Florida, Georgia. I think Florida hangs with them for 3 quarters, but I do think Georgia pulls away late. That's kind of been their MO this season, is to lean on the run game and score late and kind of put teams away in the fourth quarter. I think that happens with Georgia, Florida, so I'm going Georgia -7.5. And then the last one seems so painfully obvious. I feel like there's a trap, but I'm going to take Wake Forest +9.5 against FSU. FSU's lost 4 games in a row. They haven't looked good in any of them. They seem to be reeling. Players might have quit. Meanwhile, Wake Forest took Georgia Tech to overtime, and SMU they beat in back-to-back games. They seem to be putting it together and actually improving. I don't know what world Florida State should be 9.5-point favorites, but they are. So I'm going to take Wake, and that seems like easy money.
My bonus pick, I've got Tennessee -3.5 at home against Oklahoma. We've just seen last weekend that the Oklahoma defense can give up points to a prolific offense. The Oklahoma offense, on the other hand, still has no identity. Mateer's been very flat since his injury. The line seems really low to me. I think this should at least be 7.5. I like Tennessee at home by 10 or more. So Tennessee -3.5, that's an easy take right there. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Miami All-American Bryant McKinnie. Welcome back, Couch Coach Nation. I'm excited to have Miami Hurricane legend Bryant McKinnie join us on Complete BS. In the last 40 years of Heisman voting, there's only been 2 offensive linemen to finish in the top 10 of Heisman voting. Orlando Pace in 1996 was 4th, and in 2001, Bryant McKinnie was 8th, receiving 26 first-place votes. Coming out of Woodbury, New Jersey, I think it's safe to say Bryant McKinnie was a late bloomer. Well, he shined on the defensive line and as a track athlete. It was when he was at Lackawanna Junior College that he added 70 pounds to his frame and became a JUCO All-American, and the Hurricanes came calling. In 2000, as a junior at Miami, he didn't allow a single sack and was first team All-Big East and All-American. In his senior year in 2001, he was even more dominant. He finished his career having not allowed a sack. He was named the Outland Trophy winner and unanimous All-American selection. He was an anchor for the 2001 National Championship Hurricanes, often regarded as one of the greatest college football teams in history. He was drafted 7th overall by the Minnesota Vikings. He was selected to the Pro Bowl in 2009 and was part of the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens in 2012. He's been inducted into the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame, was part of the 2023 class to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, and just this past weekend was put into the Miami Hurricane Ring of Honor at Hard Rock Stadium. Bryant has an immense passion for service and gives back directly to to his communities through his nonprofit Be Major Foundation, which is committed to enhancing the lives of youth in single-parent homes by promoting fitness, healthy living, and addressing mental health awareness and social needs. Bryant, I'm thrilled to have you join us.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the things I always like to talk about first is the recruiting process. Coming out of New Jersey, it sounds like you weren't highly recruited. You went the junior college route. What was that recruiting process out of high school and then from junior college being a JUCO All-American and getting to Miami?
To be honest, in high school, I wasn't even thinking about it. There wasn't really many people that went to the next level like that from my area, from my high school at least. And so I didn't really think about it too much. But what's funny is there's somebody out there who mailed in the tape of Lamar Sturdivant, who was the running back who was a year behind me, who was really good. They mailed in the tape to him to the University of Iowa. And Frank Verducci, he was the O-line coach at the University of Iowa. He's seen the tape, he's seen Lamar, and he also seen me. He said, well, who is this? So when he came to the school to visit, it was after National Signing Day. So they didn't have any more scholarships left. And he felt like I was more fit to play left tackle instead of defensive end. He was like, you're built more like a left tackle, that you'll have longevity playing this position. I can give you a scholarship to go to a 2-year school. So sign a letter of intent with us here at Iowa. I can sing to Lackawanna, where he had a relationship with the head coach, Mark Duda. He said, you go there, you learn how to play the position, and then you'll come to Iowa. And I mean, I just looked at it as a free opportunity to continue my education. So I said, oh, I'll see how this goes. But I have the opportunity to, continue to go to college and continue my education. So I'll see how it goes. And I went, and I still never met the person. I have no clue who the person is who mailed the tape, but they changed my life. They changed the whole trajectory of my life. So I went there and I had to learn how to play offensive line. I never played offensive line. I went there and I had to learn it. And what helped me learn it pretty much was between my O-line coach, the head coach, and then you had a guy named Nate Russ, who was a JUCO All-American who had to practice against every day. So I had no choice but to get good. I went against one of the best every day at practice. So after a while, you get tired of getting knocked around, and I'm trying to learn the position I've never played. Now I'm going against somebody who is an All-American every day. And just a light bulb finally went off for me. I was able to stop him, and once it was like the games would be a little easier because everybody wasn't as good as him. You know what I'm saying? So it made the practice was so rough for me that my game became easier because those guys weren't as big or as physical or talented as he was. So he helped develop me. So I give him a lot of credit.
But you were recruited to Miami by Butch Davis and played for him for 2 years before he went on to the NFL. What was the transition like going to Coach Coker?
Coach Coker was our offensive coordinator, so we were already familiar with him. So that was an issue too. So when Coach Davis left to go to Cleveland, now the rumor was we had our new president who was coming, who was Donna Shalala. She was coming from Wisconsin, and she was bringing Barry Alvarez with her as the head coach. But I was going into my senior year, and I'm like, this is the worst time to try to make a transition. Like, you have a whole new scheme coming and all this stuff. And I was like, the year before, we only lost one game. We could have split the national championship had Florida State beat Oklahoma. We would have shared it. And we were like, okay, we were one game away, and this year is like our senior year. So we went up to the athletic director, and kind of like 7 of us who were like, some of the top players at the time. And voice started paying, and even might be threatened to leave school early just to try to make sure we were heard and kind of get something that we believed was what was needed. So thank goodness he listened, and he kept everything in-house and hired Larry Coker. And Larry Coker only had to add like an additional few people, changing positions because he was the offensive coordinator. So now he's the head coach. So now our tight end coach moved to offensive coordinator. You had Randy Shannon come in and be defense coordinator, just things like that. So it worked out for the best.
Yeah, that 2001 team, as I mentioned, often referred to and regarded as one of the greatest college football teams ever assembled. I mean, your third string running back was Frank Gore behind Clinton Portis and Willis McGahee. Add in Najee Davenport, Ken Dorsey at quarterback, Andre Johnson, Jeremy Shockey, yourself on the line with Brett Romberg, Joaquin Gonzalez. Defensively, Jerome McDougal, Vince Wolfrick, Jonathan Vilma, Ed Reed, Sean Taylor. Oh my goodness, the list goes on. What was that team like, and what were those practices like?
Those practices were really intense because everybody challenging each other. Nobody was scared to push and challenge each other. And then, you had those young guys who were coming in and they wanted to play. So they're pushing, they're going to push you to make you have to fight for your position, keep your position. And that was kind of the attitude that we came in with. So when I came in with Andre Johnson, Clinton Portis, our whole goal was to come in and take somebody's job. And I felt like that kind of carried over to the new wave of guys. Like, they was coming in, felt like they were good enough to take somebody's job, but we were good enough to hold them off. But what we did, though, I'm going to always say this is, my senior year, we always wanted to get those guys opportunity to get on the field. So Ed Reed and I always say we need to be able to at least by 21 points in the fourth quarter to let the backups get a chance to have some experience. And we did that for every game except 2 games. So they got a lot of experience.
It appears from the outside that Ken Dorsey was a leader of this team. He's had a successful career in the NFL coaching. What was he like as a leader?
Ken Dorsey was very smart. He was always into his books. I remember when we first got there, he was always the one who was staying in. Oh, I got to read my playbook. So he was big into in the books, knowing the plays, knowing the system. So I can see why he's had success as a coach, because he always knew the fundamentals and everything. Just very intelligent.
Your offensive line coach at Miami, Art Kehoe, is one of the most well-respected offensive line coaches I've ever been around, I've ever heard about. You went 2 seasons not allowing a single sack. Talk a little bit about Coach Kehoe and how he helped develop you.
What's funny is not only Coach Kehoe helped develop me, but our graduate assistant was Mario Cristobal. So Mario Cristobal took time with me as well on a one-on-one level where I had big matchups, and he would stay with me afterwards and we would watch film. So Coach Kehoe did a great job, putting in that dog into all of us and having us go out there and competing real hard. But I also want to say that Mario Cristobal would give me the extra film study and things like that I would need to watch, and we would go over plays like me trying to figure out what is Dwight Freeney doing, how's he terrorizing people's backfield, things like that. So he took the time with me. After team meetings, I'll sit down there. I'm like, okay, after team meeting, let's sit here and just watch some more film and just then get my mind prepared for all his moves. So just not even Dwight Freeney, but I had a guy named Jamal Reynolds my first year against Florida State. Alex Brown, a lot of big guys that he sat down and gave me some personal one-on-one time with.
Do you have a favorite memory of your time at Miami, whether it be a win, something around the team, or just on campus?
Yeah, my junior year, when we first beat Florida State, that was the first time we beat them because we just came off probation the year before. So that my junior year was the first time we beat them in 5 years. That was big. That was also like a breaking out game for myself, Ken Dorsey, and Jeremy Shockey. And that's when, people started recognizing, I guess, us as playmakers.
So I got to ask that you played with Brett Favre in Minnesota. I've met Brett before. Tell me your impressions of him on the field and as a teammate.
Well, Brett is a Libra, so we definitely get along. I like Brett. He's fun. I feel like the media can kind of paint people a certain way, and that's not always true. So I wasn't sure what to expect from Brett because the media would make it seem like he was a diva, and it's like he's total opposite. Very fun. It was the best record I've ever had as a Viking. He came in, everybody kind of rallied around him, and it became more about the players and planning for one another. And that was the furthest I had made at that period of time, all the way to the NFC Championship. So it was great to have him as a teammate, and he's very fun, and he gets along. He's a fun person.
So you played in the Super Bowl with Baltimore. What was Super Bowl week like for you leading up to the game? You hear players talk about how that week is just so different. There's so many demands on you. What was that week like?
To me, I felt like that was like being at a bowl game in college. Like you have your media day, you have your day, but then you have your period of time where you have to now buckle down and focus in like you still got a game coming up. But the first couple of days when you first get there, like that Monday or that Tuesday, it's go with the flow. Like you don't really have many responsibility. But when Wednesday hits, okay, let's buckle in. We still have a work week here. But media day, going out to eat, taking pictures, it's to me just like a college bowl game.
Any different in the feeling of winning a national championship in college versus winning the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl, I would just say that's something that everybody dreams of. That's your goal. Your goal is to make it to the NFL. And then once you make it to the NFL, that's the big thing. It's like, I got to win a Super Bowl. So to be able to have that as part of my, my resume, it definitely feels good. And then in college, that's the highest achievement you can get too as a team, is making it to the national championship and winning that too. So those are just two great situations and feelings that just feel really good. And then I was happy that I was able to link back up with my college teammate. So Ed Reed and I both won one together in college and in the NFL. So that's also a great thing as well.
In my research, looking at your background, probably the most surprised I've been in looking at former players, you were a Grammy-nominated music producer. Where did that come? 3-time Grammy-nominated music producer. Where did that come from, and how did you get into the music industry?
That was something funny back in college. Myself, from being from New Jersey, you had Ed Reed from New Orleans, Jared Payton from Chicago, Vernon Carey from Miami. We all used to be into music a lot, and we always said, when we get to the league, we're going to start a record label together. That was something we talked about, but that's always was a seed in my mind. I played the piano. I used to try to make beats and stuff when I was younger. So music was always a thing, and then I got the opportunity to meet a guy named Pleasure P. He was in a group called Pretty Ricky, and he was looking to do a solo project, and I was able to step in and be executive producer on the project. And then that project got nominated for 3 Grammys. So I have a Grammy certificate.
Very nice. So now you're retired from the league. Tell me a little bit about your work in the community, your nonprofit, the B Major Foundation.
Yeah, so B Major Foundation, our mission statement basically is healthy kids, healthy living. So keeping kids active and healthy, single-parent households, mental health awareness, and then now I'm about to add on financial literacy just because a lot of these guys are getting money at a younger age and they just need to know you got to pay your taxes. There's a lot of things they just need to know in their past. For the mental health awareness part, I do a panel once a year in May because that's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have a panel made up of therapists, different doctors, former athletes, actor, actress, musicians. They're all on my panel, and we discuss just different things that people went through and how they got through it. And it's like a fireside type of chat where people in the audience can ask questions. I just came back last week. I was in Minnesota, actually on the 13th. I was in Minnesota. Myself and Ray Rice, we spoke to the players on mental health. And then the Vikings have been a big supporter in my mental health event. They've donated ever since I started. They had me come last year as well and speak to the team. And then they hit me up again and said, hey, we're going to have you come back next year, speak to the players again, and then with a separate session with the staff. So they're adding on more. So I'm looking forward to keep doing this and having these more talks.
A giant on the field and a giant in the community. That's amazing work, Bryant. Let's talk a little bit about the Miami at SMU game. SMU's coming off a really ugly 13-12 loss to Wake Forest. If you told me the SMU defense was going to hold Wake to just 13 points, I would have bet my house that they would win the game. They can score points on offense, but the SMU defense has been horrible most of the season. The Miami defense, on the other hand, has really picked it up this season as the season's progressed. They lead the ACC in both total yards allowed and points allowed. SMU, though, they're a totally different team when they're playing in Dallas. They've scored 31 or more points in every home game so far this season. Miami, I think the key for them is they need to guard against the late season letdown that we've seen many Miami teams in recent memory do. The season's not lost. All the goals are still in front of you. With only one loss, you're still in the mix for the playoffs. You're still in the mix for the ACC championship game. You've got 5 games left. You've got some tough games on the road. You need to lock in and make sure that you can still accomplish all the goals that you have. When Miami is at their best, it's when Mark Fletcher is getting carries and running well. The 4 games that Fletcher has been over 85 yards rushing have been decisive wins. The 3 games that he didn't were 1-score games, and they went 2-1 in those games. Their loss to Louisville, Fletcher only had 18 yards. Bryant, what do you see when you watch Miami play this season?
The O-line had a little window of like just having struggle running the ball. And therefore, if you have a struggle running the ball, you can't do play action pass. That's not going to work. You have to run the ball. So they have to just kind of get that under control. Like you said, the defense has definitely stepped up way better than last year. So I'm happy to see the defense get better. And just eliminate the turnovers.
Absolutely. In a game like this, if you cut down on turnovers, you're running the ball and controlling the clock for the time of possession, keeping that high-powered SMU offense, at least the potential of a high-powered SMU offense off the field. That's going to really bode well for Miami and building a big lead and then being able to just lean on that defensive line. Miami has a distinct advantage on both the offensive line and the defensive line with the talent that they have up front. Run the ball with Fletcher and just continue to wear down that SMU defense. SMU at times, it's looked like their defensive line, they've been on roller skates. They've been pushed around a lot. The Miami offensive line across the board is really big and powerful. They should be able to dominate things up front. Bryant, I know you told me you're heading out there to this game. Do you see Miami winning, or is this an SMU upset?
I think the Louisville game kind of woke Miami up a little bit. At first, I was a little nervous even last week because halftime the score was 7-7. I was like, what? But then second half, something must have said in their locker room. They regrouped. So I think they're aware now that they don't have time to kind of start slow or, it's one game at a time. You know what I mean? You can't look ahead or look past anybody. So you got to go in here, handle business in this game. I think they'll come out.
Well, Miami, they're a 10.5-point favorite on the road. They are the more talented roster, both offensively and defensively. I've got the Canes winning this game 42-28. They definitely will cover the spread.
Okay. I see them winning too. I don't know what score I can say.
Yeah, I think the talent gap is just too great for SMU to keep it close. Miami now, I believe, will be on a mission to finish strong, to send a message to the committee voters that they're in the playoff, they're here to stay. They might not make the ACC championship game because right now both Virginia and Georgia Tech are undefeated in conference play, but that might actually benefit them not having to play an extra game. I know they don't want to win a conference championship game, but not having to play that game, if they just take care of their business, they're in the college football playoff and have a shot at the national title.
And they do. So hopefully they can keep things going.
Well, Bryant, thank you for joining us on Complete BS. You can follow the Complete BS pod on X and Instagram, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to Complete BS. Be sure to subscribe, share, and follow us online. And tell us what you think of this episode. Use hashtag CouchCoachNation, and let's keep the conversation going.